I'd like to call to order the regular city council meeting of March the 25th, and if the clerk would please take the roll.
Councilmember Archibald.
Here.
Councilmember Cole.
Here.
Councilmember Harris.
Here.
Councilmember Lewandowski.
Here.
Councilmember Moeller.
Here.
Councilmember Ruiz.
Here.
Mayor Rep.
Here. You have before you the minutes from the regular meeting of March the 11th. Do we have a motion to receive and file?
So moved.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Archibald. Is there a second?
Support.
Councilmember Ruiz. Is there any additions or deletions? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes will stand as submitted. We have several presentations tonight. If the clerk would please read the first one.
Number one is a proclamation recognizing April 9th, 2013 as National Service Recognition Day will be presented to Laura Nessel, Director of the Foster Grandparent Program.
If you'd just like to meet me at the podium. Take the other one with me. One at a time. I can just read the other one.
Good.
Okay, I'm going to read this publicly, and then I'll give it to you. Excuse me. Whereas service to others is a hallmark of the American character and central to how we meet our challenges, and whereas the nation's mayors are increasingly turning to national service and volunteerism as a cost-effective strategy to meet city needs, and whereas national service expands economic opportunity by creating more sustainable, resilient communities and providing education, career skills, and leadership abilities for those who serve, and whereas national service participants serve in more than 70,000 locations across the country, bolstering the civic, neighborhood, and faith-based organizations that are so vital to our economic and social well-being, and whereas national service participants increase the impact of the organizations they serve with both through their direct service and by recruiting and managing millions of additional volunteers. And whereas national service represents a unique public-private partnership that invests in community solutions and leverages non-federal resources to strengthen community impact and increase the return on taxpayer dollars. And whereas Senior Corps volunteers demonstrate commitment, dedication, and patriotism by making an intensive commitment to service, a commitment that remains with them in their future endeavors. And whereas the Corporation for National and Community Service shares a priority with mayors nationwide to engage citizens, improve lives, and strengthen communities, and is joining others across the country to support the Mayor's Day of Recognition for National Service on April the 9th, 2013. Now therefore, I, Pauline M. Rep, by the authority vested in me as Mayor of the City of Port Huron, and on behalf of Council Members Archibald, Cole, Harris, Lewandowski, Moeller, and Ruiz, do hereby proclaim April 9th, 2013 as National Service Recognition Day and encourage residents to recognize the positive impact of national service in our city and to thank those who serve and to find ways to give back to their communities. And I know the Foster Grandparent Program does a great job with that, and if you'd like to say a few words.
Thank you very much. I will share this with my volunteers. We have our 36th annual recognition event next month on April 26th at Alexander's. You can call our office if you'd be interested in attending, where we will honor all of our volunteers. We have 60 volunteers currently in St. Clair County, and our volunteers average over 60,000 hours of volunteer service every year with at-risk children. So thank you very much, and I will proudly share this with them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Proclamation number 2 is recognizing April 2013 as Child Abuse Prevention Month, and it will be presented to representatives of the St. Clair County Child Abuse and Neglect Council.
Well, it's a pleasure to present this, and I will read it. Whereas Port Huron's children are our future, whenever one child is abused or neglected, all of the community suffers. And whereas in 2012, 8,097 children were living in poverty, 4,331 children were living in homes investigated for child abuse and neglect, and 580 children were confirmed victims of child abuse and neglect in St. Clair County. And whereas child abuse is one of our nation's most serious public health problems, with studies have documented the link between abuse and neglect of children and a wide range of medical, emotional, psychological, and behavioral disorders, including depression, alcoholism, drug abuse, severe obesity, and juvenile delinquency. And whereas unemployment, poverty, parental drug and alcohol abuse, stress, social isolation, and violent communities increase the risk for an environment in which child maltreatment can occur. And whereas promoting family functioning, resiliency, social support systems, concrete supports, nurturing and attachment, and knowledge of parenting, child development, all are known protective factors which prevent child maltreatment and help strengthen families. And whereas this month and each month hereafter, the City of Port Huron, under the leadership of the St. Clair County Child Abuse Neglect Council, pledges the strength of our entire community to prevent child abuse and neglect and not to stand by in silence. Now therefore, I, Pauline M. Repp, by the authority vested in me as Mayor of the City of Port Huron, and on behalf of Council Members Archibald, Cole, Harris, Lewandowski, Moeller, and Ruiz, do hereby proclaim April of 2013 to be Child Abuse Prevention Month. Child abuse prevention is an acknowledged community responsibility, and it is our duty to cherish our children and help them grow and develop it to their fullest potential. Thank you.
Thank you very
Sally,
much,
and if you'd
Pauline.
like to say a few words.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mayor Repp and Port Huron City Council. There are one current and one past board member sitting among you, and others of you who have been very, very kind to us, and we would like to thank you for that. My colleagues with me tonight, Jamie Alexander, Lindsay Chop, Ashley Troy, thank you for this proclamation, which we accept on behalf of the thousands of St. Clair County children who are reported victims of child abuse each year. The St. Clair County Child Abuse Neglect Council is a 501c3 organization which since 1984 has been totally dedicated to the prevention of child abuse and the promotion of child advocacy. Last year alone, we served over 10,000 children and adults with prevention education and conducted forensic interviews for nearly 200 alleged sexual abuse victims. Next Thursday, on April 4th, the ladies behind me and me myself will be walking Main Street tying blue ribbons on the lamp posts. This will be a reminder to all passers-by for the month of April that April is Child Abuse Prevention Month. We would ask all of you, and all of you who are watching on television this evening, to take note of those pretty blue ribbons as you drive the main street of Port Huron, and take a moment to reflect on our belief that it shouldn't hurt to be a child. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Presentation number 3.
Assad Malik, President and CEO of Amiralodge Group, will discuss proposed plans for the Water Street Marina property.
Good evening, and thank you for inviting us here to talk to you about this project. I want to first introduce our team. The head of the development of the project is Mark Green, with us with the Amiralodge Group, and then Rhonda Shamaya, who's our architect, internal architect as well. Tell you a little bit about Amiralodge Group. We are currently Rochester Hills-based Michigan hotel group that has currently 12 hotels in our portfolio. We have 3 different other projects that are actually in construction phase currently. We have a Holiday Inn Express in Troy, Michigan that should be opening up at the end of April. We have a Courtyard by Marriott that's under construction in Battle Creek, Michigan, and we have a Holiday Inn Express in Rochester Hills, Michigan as well. And then a project that's right now going through City Council and City Planning right now in Monroe, Michigan as well. So we're Michigan-based. We're growing. We want to grow right here in Michigan, and we're very excited. We have partnered with both Intercontinental primarily, which is the owner of Holiday Inn Express, and Marriott, as we've been growing with Marriott products as well. So those are our 2 primary base of organizations that we work with here in Michigan to grow. We do have hotels, 1 hotel in Ohio and a few in Indiana as well. And we have been very successful, even with our growth right now, of getting financing and working with various banks in Metro Detroit to help us with the development. So to tell you a little bit about myself, I'm actually from the healthcare field. I was actually Chief Financial Officer for Henry Ford West Bloomfield Hospital. It's a brand-new hospital that was built in West Bloomfield by Henry Ford. I left full-time in August to join Amerilodge as I started the organization 7 years ago, but we've kind of grown so rapidly, now well over 300 employees, and growing even further. And so I've come full-time to Amerilodge from Henry Ford to just focus on growth of the organization. And we'll give you a little bit background of of the project itself that we're looking at, and you have a rough sketch of it currently.
Maybe you could turn, we all have one in front of us in paper copy. If you want to turn it around, then they can get it on the camera so that those viewing at home can see it also.
It's the same drawing that you have.
Right, so.
So our development is actually, right now, currently on the property where there's 300 slips, we would work on helping work with the development of the marina. But in addition, we are planning a hotel right in the middle of the development, a Holiday Inn Express, which was already proposed to you by a previous developer. And that same proposal would be an 83-room hotel. In addition, we would have a restaurant pad, and we're working with 2 different restaurant groups that are from the Metro Detroit area, looking at proposed restaurants, looking at either independent restaurants or a franchise restaurant right now. And then there would be a pad that we would have separated for future development that we would consider. The property itself, we have a color rendering of the actual development. Mark, we probably put it on camera as well, but maybe you can show it.
Us first, and then you can
Show
turn it
everyone in
around.
front.
So, yeah.
So kind of a color rendering
Yeah.
of the project itself. And so as you can see that where the existing, we're putting the proposed hotel right in the middle of the project, which we would clean up the entire, clean up the entire lot. We'd put on the east side, we'd put that restaurant pad, and then we'd have a future development site location on the west of it.
Okay. And maybe you just set it down on the floor in front of it, and, yeah, that's probably good.
Our building would be an 83-room hotel, 3 stories, a sample rendering of it, and we can actually show, we just opened one up in Lansing, Michigan, just about 6 months ago. So that's the rendering of the existing property. This is actually what Rhonda has in front of you is the actual prototype which we would build here at this site. It's exactly mirror image of what we would be building. You see both the interior and the exterior would be a mirror copy. We just opened a new one on May 1st of last year in Lansing, and we are actually we're building the same exact property in Rochester Hills, Michigan, currently.
Yeah, no, I can see, thanks.
So this would be, we can leave this here for you. This would be the exact mirror copy of the project that we're working on, both interior as well as exterior, the project. So that's currently the project that we're proposing. We are proposing, and we worked on a proposal to expedite this project here as we continue to grow, and we have other projects in the pipeline. So it's our intention to come in and build the property very quickly within a short period of time so that we can have it up and operational within the year. So that's our intention and our goal. And we have been successful currently with our existing properties as well. That's what we're doing. We normally build our properties within a range of 6 to 9 months currently, and all of our properties, actually, we hold the record with even Intercontinental. We've built a property within 3.5 months from start to finish, 77-room Holiday Inn Express. And even with Marriott, we've built a Fairfield Inn in Fenton that we opened a 1.5 years ago within a 6-month period of time. So with both institutions, we have their records currently.
Thank you. I think probably obviously you're going to just be here, so I think maybe we should just wait until the time that we actually discuss the item on the agenda, and then you'll be available for questions from council at that time.
Sounds good?
That's all right with everybody? Okay. Yep, and you just leave those there if you don't mind, that's fine. Thank you. Presentation number 4.
Nancy Windsor, Director of Parks and Recreation, will discuss the city's large brush and branch program.
Mayor, City Council, I'm here today to talk about the City of Port Huron's large brush pickup program. Let me see if I can figure out. As you know, currently, as part of our weekly refuge pickup, the city's solid waste contractor provides properly prepared brush pickup. This would be brush that are, and tree limbs that are under 4 feet and under 2 inches in diameter and weigh no more than 50 pounds. The large brush and branch program, however, is a service that goes beyond that, and this is a service that's provided by the Parks and Forestry Department. It handles brush that does not comply with the weekly refuge pickup and handles brush that is longer than 4 feet long. It might be, hold on one second. The large brush and branch program, as you know, in the past had been funded through our garbage and rubbish fund. And as you know, we've seen a decrease in that in revenue, and we'll continue to see that. So with that in mind, we started to look at the large branch and brush program and think of ways that we could make the program a little more economical and still not lose the service for our residents. We did do a competitive bid for this service in our latest solid waste bid package for the vendor to provide this service, although we found that our city employees were able to do it significantly less than what the contractor could. With that in mind, we started researching what other cities were doing with large brush and branch, and I was very hard pressed to find other places that even offer this service to the residents. In our area, as you can see by this slide, the only one that offers large brush and branch for no fee is the city of St. Clair. The only other two that I really could find in the state, and there may be others, but it was just Bay City and Livonia, but there was very few. Most of them did as we do and have it in their weekly yard waste pickup program. So with that, we started thinking about a new branch and brush program. And sometimes I think people get confused, so we'd like to call it the 444 Large Brush Branch Pickup Program. And we're going to do it 4 weeks in the spring and 4 weeks in the fall. The cost will now be $40 to have large branch and brush picked up. And if cost is an issue, we're offering on the 4th Saturday of each month that you can drop your brush and branches off for free at the Forestry Department between 10 and 1. We will require that a City of Port Huron ID is shown so that we know you're a resident, and there'll be no cost for that. We'll just be taking large branches and brush though, and no building materials. To arrange a pickup for large brush, we're still going to have our large brush phone number, which is 987-6000. We intend to take credit cards to set up a pickup over the phone, or they can bring in a cash or check. We will, continue to have our guidelines where we'd like large brush and branches neatly at the curb and the sidewalk with the cut ends facing the street prior to your pickup day, and not mixing any other materials with that, railroad ties, commercial contractor items. It's too difficult for our workers to pick up those kind of things with the equipment we have. And then keeping away from overhead obstructions and keeping all those guidelines in place. We'll have our guidelines on our website after this meeting today, but hoping again to still offer the same service, but making it a little more economical for the city. And with that, does anyone have any questions?
Sounds like a good solution to to the issue, but I don't know if anybody else on council has any questions.
I'm sure the public will have more questions.
I'm sure they will too after they
Yes.
hear it.
Yes.
But I know that it's a major thing to have to deal with, so sounds like you've come up with a good solution. Thank you.
Mayor Rep,
Yes, Councilmember Moeller.
Nancy, so Saturday, are we paying these employees overtime then?
We're gonna pay one employee, we'll give them other jobs to do at the yard there for the 3 hours. And again, it's still a lot more economical than, because normally when we gotta go out, we send a couple people out, so, and again, just trying to come up with a solution that, for people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Presentation number 5.
Michael Reeves, Public Safety Director, will present the Police Department's annual report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, City Manager. You have a copy of the report on your desktop today. It was just delivered to us today, so I apologize you didn't get it earlier. I'd ask you to gloss through it. If you have questions on it, please feel free to get a hold of me. There's a couple things that you should note, and that is the information from our Detective Bureau and our Major Crimes Unit. You'll see the bulk of the work that they've done. And I'm just going to focus on a couple slides for the public. Hopefully I can get this right. Help me out here, Nancy, you're the superstar here. Which one do you use? Nancy does these all the time. Okay. Police reports, there's 11% increase from 2011 to 2012. You'll see that's a pretty significant jump as you look there. That's 811 more reports. Burglaries, a 4% decrease. Those are really pretty static. I don't see candidly that as really being a large decrease. Burglaries can be reported in a number of different formats. As you read the micro stats, there's buildings that are occupied, buildings unoccupied, entry without permission. Those type of statistics are put in there. Damage to property crimes, less than 1% increase. That was pretty static. Big concern of mine here, robberies, an 18% increase. I think that points to two things. One, our economic times, and the second is the sustained amount of drug trafficking that I feel still continues in the city. A lot of these are street robberies where one person, relieves another person of their goods or cash, and a number of these cases, the victims are less than cooperative in regards to who was involved in it. They'll report that the theft occurred, but they don't want to give us a lot of information in helping to arrest those that are involved in it. Charged assaults. I talked back a year ago about what I felt was a trend that has continued in this community, and that's the amount of assault of crimes that occurred. Again, a significant increase, 20% more in charged assaults. I feel that's very high for a community of 30,000 people. We have an additional 91 from the year before, and I think that's pretty significant. Larceny's a minimal increase there, but then going with the economics of the world that we have it, those include all type of larcenies. It could be from a motor vehicle, from a store, those type of thing, retail frauds, that's all included. One thing here I want you to note is a product of our work environment here, the amount of arrests that are up significantly, 18% from 2011 to 2012, 2,644 juveniles or adults arrested for this Port Huron Police Department. If there's any questions in regards to the report as you get a chance to go through it, I'd be more than happy to answer those for you.
Thank you. Is there anything right now that anybody has any questions on? No, I'm sure we'll all look it over and call you.
Okay.
Nice report, thank you. We'll move on to public hearings.
Number 1 is to hear comments on the proposed Lakeside Park renovation plans. Following the hearing, council will consider approving the submission of a grant application to the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund to assist with these renovations.
Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address the city council relative to this public hearing on the proposed Lakeside Park renovation plans? If there is, then they can come to the podium, give us your name. Is this
this where I get to say what I'd like to, about the plan you have?
About the Lakeside plan,
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
This
Hi,
is the
I'm
time.
Kathy Skinner. And I've lived in the area
Could
pretty
you
much
give us
all-
your name
Oh,
to
I'm
start with?
Kathy Skinner.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. I've lived in the area, and as you can tell, I kind of grew up with Lakeside. I've lived through its good times and its bad times, and these are kind of bad times. And I've been to one of the other meetings. What really bothers me about the whole thing is that they want to put a fence across the west side of the park. And if we're supposed to be putting together a park that says, "Welcome, come in," a fence doesn't say that. A fence says, "Wait, don't go in, stay out." The other thing is that when I went to one of the other meetings, they were talking about, they didn't like the foot traffic from the neighborhood. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, you have kids that live 2 or 3 blocks away and they can't come? That's why you want to put up the fence? It just doesn't make sense to me. The other thing that I didn't really care for was the fact that you want to attach all the picnic tables to the ground. Now, I can understand putting some of the picnic tables in the pavilions and having those anchored to the ground, but let's say that there are only 10 people there on the 10th of August because it's not a warm day. And there's a group of us that want to have a picnic, and there are some under this pavilion and some under that pavilion, but our group, man, we only get 1 picnic table, and we could really use 2. So I don't really think we should cement them all to the ground, or, in any way. And I also don't think we should put a fence up, because we want this accessible to the public. We want to keep the public coming. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to address the council on this item?
Good evening. My name is Bea Castillo, and I'm a resident of the city of Port Huron. But tonight I actually address you as the coordinator of Team Access, which is part of the Blue Water Center for Independent Living. And we've been asked by Nancy, I've seen this plan in the past, and we've also worked with Pam Blau, who was the designer of this particular plan, with regard to accessibility issues in the park. And would like to support the plan. We like the design. We like the fact that we've been working with Pam, not just, well, this is the first project, I think, in the city that Pam Blau would have designed, but she designed Fort Gratiot County Park, and I'm especially pleased to see the new access to the waterfront. A long time ago, I spoke to this council with regard to accessible beach chairs, and when those were purchased and those were used, and now they're actually barely usable anymore, I think. And so we're happy to see that attention is being paid to accessibility throughout the whole park, especially to the waterfront. And the new lavatories, I'm sure, will be very welcome. And we are happy to support it, and will support this effort in a letter from the Blue Water Center for Independent Living on behalf of Team Access.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to address the council under this public hearing on the proposed plan for Lakeside Park? Seeing no one else, I will declare the public hearing closed. And we do have a resolution to
Mayor Rep,
consider.
Councilman Harris wanted to comment.
Oh,
Yeah, could I just have one comment?
you want to comment that's
Yeah.
part of the public hearing as opposed
Yes,
to when we
please.
just, okay. Then
I talked to Mr. Gene Beachday, he lives up on 19th Avenue, and some of the concerns where he's used the park a lot for quite a period of time, and he likes the idea of being user-friendly, and then on some administrative parts, he'd like to see some advantage to the resident of Port Orange to use it. I guess the other question he really had is, if we charge to go in the park, do we accept a partial responsibility for the use of the park or the people in the park? He says that, he likes to use it, and if you pay to use it, does the city actually absorb some of the responsibility? And I guess one of the other things, he talked about the fence too, and he understood, I guess, both people's ideas about the fence. He thought it was a good idea, and he thought it was kind of an idea that, maybe he would not adopt. But he also mentioned that, you look at Lakeside, the cemetery, it doesn't have a fence, and it's subject to a lot of vandalism. And I guess in that same context, that he figures that this fence, especially along Gratiot Avenue, might be an advantage to the property, and I just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Now I'm looking for a motion for the resolution to approve the grant application.
So moved.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Archibald. Is there a second?
Support.
Sometimes it's hard to hear voices. Who it is? Councilmember Lewandowski. Is there discussion?
Mayor Rapp,
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Archibald.
in discussing this with Nancy and others, I feel that it's important to point out that this is strictly a plan, and we are voting on submitting for a grant application. It does not mean that there's not still future opportunity to discuss the plan and the layout and the fence and the picnic tables or whatever it else is that you have a concern on. So we're not voting on this as a concrete design. This is just a design that we're going to present in order to get a grant.
Thank you for bringing that up. I also understand that the fence is really not a fence, it's more of an ornamental, is that correct, Nancy? I mean, even not saying that it's going to be there or not, but I know that there have been comments about it, but I think it's more of an ornamental.
Yes, Mayor and City Council, it was brought into the picture because some of the people at the meeting had talked about some of the social issues, and after hearing comments from the last meeting and this meeting, this grant's for the central core, and certainly in 3 years or whenever we get funding, those issues might not be there. It was a 4-foot decorative fence, but after hearing comments, I don't even know for sure if that's something that we'll plan to do, but it's not in this first phase.
So there's still time to consider those things?
Yes, for sure.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else on council that has any questions for Nancy about this or any comments?
Mayor Rapp,
Yes, Councilmember Moeller.
I just want to say I'm going to support the motion tonight to apply for the grant. However, I agree with Mrs. Skinner and other people that have contacted me. I have more than just concerns that she mentioned tonight about it, and I won't be supporting the measure if it goes through as it was presented to us. So I have some major concerns. I drive by there every day, and I like seeing the lake. I don't want to see the trees. I got trees in my yard, so and I don't want to see the fence either. At least not until you show it to me, and maybe you can sell me on it. I'm not saying you can't sell me on it, but right now I'm not impressed with the fence there. And the other issue that I have is the parking issue. There's limited parking there on busy days, and I know the neighborhoods are swamped with parking, and we're going to be eliminating parking spaces there with the design that was shown. So I'm opposed to eliminating parking spaces and overloading the neighborhoods more than what they are already. So those are my concerns, among others, but again, I'll be supporting the motion tonight, and I support Mrs. Skinner and those people that have concerns that live up there. So.
Thank you. Anybody else? Thanks, Nancy. If there's no further discussion, then we will take a vote on the motion.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Cole?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Lewandowski?
Yes.
Councilmember Moeller?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. We'll move on to public hearing number 2.
Is to hear comments on code case number 13-007 located at 518 Union Street to determine if it constitutes a nuisance as defined by city code. Following the hearing, council will consider approving the immediate demolition of the structure for listed violations.
Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address the council on this code case at 518 Union Street? I don't see anybody, but still maybe Ms. Armour could come up and explain it to us.
Good evening, council members, mayor. 518 Union Street unfortunately has been a building that's been vacant for some time. The water was shut off a year ago, and this past January 21st, there was a fire that was set. The building, the fire was set by individuals who were squatting in the building that evening, and there was some significant damage done. We have been in contact with the mortgage holder, and they have agreed that the building should be demolished. They've sent out a representative to take a look at the repairs necessary and the value of the building, and they have indicated to us that they would not come tonight and speak against demolition, and they understand that we will be sending the demolition bill directly to them, and we will expect payment promptly from them. So we would like to move forward with this.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Armour? Okay, I'm going to declare the public hearing closed and ask for a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Moeller. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Cole. Any discussion? We'll take the
Mayor
vote.
Rep?
Yes,
Oh.
I'm sorry.
That's
I moved
okay.
along very quickly, didn't I? Councilmember Cole.
I would just like to speak to, this is in my neighborhood, it's been a blight concern for a long time, so I'll be supporting taking it down.
Thank you. Anyone else? We will take the vote.
Councilmember Cole.
Yes.
Councilmember Harris.
Yes.
Councilmember Lewandowski.
Yes.
Councilmember Moeller.
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz.
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald.
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. Move on to public hearing number 3.
Is to hear comments on the proposed amendment to the city's project plan for the combined sewer overflow control water system improvements project. Following the hearing, council will consider adoption of the amendment to the project plan.
Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to the city council relative to public hearing number 3 on the city's project plan for the combined sewer overflow control water system improvements project? And I see Mr. Clegg up here.
Mayor Rep and council members. Approximately in 1998, we actually had a project plan that was approved by the city council and by the MDEQ. Each 5 years since the approval of that plan, we've had to do amendments or updates. As part of those amendments and updates, we not only spoken about the CSO control projects, but also other projects like water main improvements and so on that have enabled us to use low-interest financing and/or grants that are administered through the MDEQ. If we do not have these projects listed in our plan, they are not eligible. So what you're going to see tonight, or within this plan, are not just projects that will be done for certain, but projects that put us in position that if funding comes together and we can proceed with projects, we can do so and be eligible for either low-interest financing or grants. With that, the CSO control program status as of fiscal year 2013, the city of Port Huron maintains 234 miles of sewer, 169 miles of water main, and 135 miles of street, and 13 sanitary pump stations. In 1997, before we began the sewer separation program, this map demonstrates the area that was served by combined sewers. The red triangles on the map show the 19 locations throughout the city where combined sewage discharged into our rivers and streams. This map is at the end of 2012, demonstrates the areas that are currently served by combined sewers. There is one area up near the Blue Water Bridge that we have not separated to date because of the indecision about what MDOT and their federal partners will do with the Plaza project. And the other area is the Nern area that we are currently designing plans for separation. Following the project that was completed in 2012, which is 21st Street Phase 2, we have successfully reduced the area served by combined sewers from 2,400 acres to 143 acres. This represents a 94% reduction in area served by combined sewers. The combined sewer overflow volume, or the amount of flow going into our rivers and streams that's mixed with sanitary sewage, has been reduced from 309 million gallons to approximately 10 million gallons a year, or a 97% reduction. Our combined sewer outfalls that were 19 when we began are down to 2. That's an 89% reduction in locations where we have overflows. The combined sewer overflow projects that remain is the Blue Water Bridge project. Again, I don't have a year for when we would recommend going forward with that project. In the latest meetings we've had with MDOT about their plans to do the Plaza project, They have indicated that it's not included in financing for the next 5 years. Again, I would not recommend that the city proceed expending dollars in that area until there's a firm plan and we know what services are needed and not needed in that area. As far as the Nern area, those plans are currently under design, and our goal would be to bid this project in the January of 2014. If council approves so, then we would have a project that would begin in April of 2014, and that project would take approximately 2 years to complete. And that would put us in a position that the only area remaining would be around the Blue Water Bridge Plaza project area. The infrastructure improvements to date as part of this project is that we've installed 90 miles of sewers, 59 miles of water main. We've reconstructed 77 miles of street. We've rehabilitated 4 sanitary pump stations, and we were fortunate enough to be able to abandon 1 sanitary pump station. That's good news because it reduces our cost of operations. In addition to doing projects, we don't just design them and build them. The next stage is we go out and measure the flows in the system, and we determine that there is no human waste in the outfalls that are now storm sewers. This is a step that many communities have not done in the past with their CSO control programs, but we have. We're very proud of the fact that for every area that, as you see in this map, every other area that was in yellow, we've already been able to certify both those things. That not only was the sanitary system designed properly, but the flows show that it is operating as designed. And that there's no human waste discharging through our storm sewers. And we're very proud of that. Currently in 2013, we are doing the areas that are in color on the map. We won't be able to complete the blue area up in here until the Blue Water Bridge Plaza project is completed, but all other areas we'll be able to evaluate and we are very hopeful we'll be able to certify these areas also. And if we can't certify, we will find the problem, track it down, and make certain we can certify it in the end. This is a map, and I believe Councilmember Lewandowski mentioned it one time when he looked at our benchmarking on our website about the status of our infrastructure, about the miles of water main that are still 50 years old. This map shows where we have water mains that are over 50 years old currently. And as you can see, most of these water mains all occur in areas where we haven't separated sewers. One little NADA area will be in a CSO area and will be taken care of. But many of these areas were not part of the CSO control plan, and thus they are still present and need to be addressed at some day in the future. We always look at opportunities to infrastretch or stretch our investment in dollars. That's how we did the CSO control program, for example. I just lost it. Can you advance that one, please? I went to red. Thank you. And so what we do, and what we've done with the CSO control program and what we've done with other projects, many people have been confused about projects we've done and thought they were always CSO control projects. My example is if you look around the area that we call the canals, there was a series of projects where we went in and we did water main, sewer, and street reconstruction. None of that area was part of the CSO control program. We used low-interest financing because it was part of this plan to do that project, and we had to do that project because the water mains were failing in that area and the sanitary sewers were like this and were non-functioning. So all of that work, for example. The work we've done along on many of our streets, Sanborn, that was just completed last year. We did water main improvements, we had a storm sewer that had to be installed, and we repaired the street. We try to take grant funding for roads, and we match that with utility dollars and get the biggest return on the investment by doing those projects together at a moment of opportunity. So what this map is, this map shows street condition compared to water main age. The areas in red are streets that are in poor condition and have water mains over 50 years in age. And as you can see, these were non-CSO areas. The green areas are streets that are in fair condition but have water mains over 50 years in age. And the dark blue streets are streets that are in good condition but have water mains over 50 years in age. Those streets were done prior to the CSO control program, prior to 1999. Our goal would be to try to identify all these project areas and plan our programming so that if we're going to do street improvements, we not do them over infrastructure that's going to fail soon after the street is constructed. We'll also do street repairs where infrastructure is not necessary to repair, but I think it's important to make certain that everyone understands what our goals are, that it's important to keep up with the system. Some of these water mains over 50 years old are over 100 years old. An example would be in the government area, which is included in the plan. That's the area that we sit in, that this building is in. It's essentially from Glenwood South to Quay and from Huron Avenue to the St. Clair River. This area was not part of the CSO control program, but has some water mains over 100 years old. Streets are becoming in poor condition. And as the years go by and we do corridors and streets, we should take care of the infrastructure underneath those streets as we go forward. Another area that I think many people would recognize is the area around Port Huron Hospital. That's also identified in the plan. And I think if you drove the streets such as Lincoln, Elk, and Washington in that area between 10th and Stone, I think you would agree that those streets are in very poor condition and the utilities under them, especially water mains, are in poor condition also. We've also identified an area south of the Blue Water Bridge, and if you're aware, we're currently funded to do Harker Street and receive grant funding to do that, and we'll be making water main improvements and sanitary sewer improvements as we reconstruct that roadway. And we're taking advantage of grant funding to do that as part of the project that's going on at Thomas Edison in property. Also north of the Blue Water Bridge is an area that was not impacted by combined sewers that have older streets and infrastructure. We're high marking these particular areas as part of this existing plan, not to say there aren't areas elsewhere in the city that are, that are important, but we feel that these were ones that we should identify as part of the plan in case projects go forward. We would have a moment of opportunity to potentially grab other grant fundings or low-interest loans. Are there any questions?
Anyone on council have any questions for Mr. Kleib before we open it up? Yes, go ahead, Councilmember Harris.
You talked about a lot of things that have to be done and are going to be done. And I was looking at the price tag here, $61 million.
Yep.
How much of that project is $61 million, or can we plan on double of that, or what kind of?
Well,
situation?
I think that estimate includes these areas and the combined sewer overflow projects. These areas are not under any timeline. So what I'm proposing to council is that the plan go forward, we identify areas, and then as funding is found to do road work, if we pick up a grant fund to do road work, then this gives us an opportunity to potentially go out and use grant funding for doing water main or sewer improvements or low-interest loans if we wish to put all that package together. My recommendation would be if you're going to do roads in these areas, you ought to be looking at utilities, or you're going to be putting new pavement on bad infrastructure, and that's going to come back and bite you in a very few years after you've done the work.
So basically, we're saying $61 million is not going to complete.
Well,
Basically, it's no to $61 million, right?
What I'm saying is that 61, overall in the city forever, there's going to be a lot more money spent than that. What I'm saying is we're not under that tight timeline that we had under CSO where we had to do it in 15 years or 16 years. But it is necessary to indicate or recognize that these issues are out there, because then as you're doing these projects, you're including the utility work. And if possible, you try to seek either low-interest financing or grants, if they're available, by having them as part of the plan. I don't know if that's clear?
Well, I guess the final thing is my sons and grandsons and stuff will never see the end of the payment.
Well, you're always going to have street infrastructure to do. You'll always will. Our estimates are to keep the street system at its current state and not have it decrease, and I can show you that plan also, would take about $4.5 million a year. If we fail to put that kind of investment into that system, it's going to decrease in condition, and eventually the public's going to want it fixed. And it costs more to fix it after it deteriorates than in a planned approach. So there's always costs to owning infrastructure.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that has any? Yes, Councilmember Lewandowski.
Two questions for you, Bob. One of them I saw was the red streets north and south. Is there any plan, I get asked a lot, is there any plan to fix that one, or those two streets?
Which ones?
North and South Boulevard?
Yes, it's out there, it's in our plan. And again, I think it all comes down to marrying funding, road dollars and utility money, because there's water main needs in those streets also. I think if you look back at this map, it recognizes it.
Yeah,
It's right there. You can see there in red. So we recognize those streets are in poor condition and have water mains over 50 years in age. But you can see that they're not unique. We have many others. Certainly, the mileage has dropped with all the work we've done, but there's still work to be done.
No, I drive over those ones quite a bit, so I know. I've driven down smoother roads in the middle of the woods and then on north and south sometimes. But the other one I have is the 10 million gallons that's still in the overflow. How much is that from the north end by the Blue Water Bridge area? Do we know? Do we have an estimate on that?
I don't have that broken down with me tonight, but I could get that information for you.
I was just curious, they put so much pressure on us to make a decision to get something done that if that's a big part of that 10 million, I think we need to be putting on them pressure to make a decision as to what they're going to do there or pay for it themselves.
We are required to renew our wastewater treatment plant NPDES permit. And included in our application, I have letters from MDOT admitting that they don't yet have a plan for the plaza, a request from myself to give us time for them to make their decision before we're required to do something there. And we're trying to work that into our permit language. So MDOT is cooperating with us from the fact that they've sent a letter to DEQ explaining the dilemma the city's in with indecision on the part of all the parties.
So they're willing to give MDOT a break, but not the city on the top?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see what the permit ends up saying. That will be our goal.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Ruiz.
you go to city city engineer meetings and such.
Yes.
'Cause I'm doing a little pity party here. How many communities out there in Michigan that you're aware of that have gone through this kind of a challenge of CSO? And I think I know where Councilman Harris is coming from. He's saying, okay, we see the end in sight for that happening, and here you stand and say, and by the way, this is on the horizon.
And I think it's fair to say, I can show you the reports nationally. Nationally, there's a real infrastructure problem, from New York City to
How about in the state of Michigan?
in the state of Michigan, it's awful. There is...
Are there cities that have the same
Yeah,
challenge, and
absolutely.
they're going through that?
Absolutely. 100-year water mains, You take Lansing, Grand Rapids, some cities were not as fortunate as us in that they chose not to separate their sewers. They went with a combined system where they put in tanks. They never touched their infrastructure. So their combined sewer overflow control program is compliant, but all their infrastructure is the same age as always was. So that would mean all their pipes are hundreds of, they're like 100 years old or 80 years old, and they've never touched them. All their water mains never touched them. They just spent millions and millions of dollars on building big tanks. So they even have bigger challenges than we have. And it's true nationally. It's true nationally. The American Society of Civil Engineers has done a report card on infrastructure in the country, and it's a solid D-. Water main, water distribution systems, sanitary sewer collection systems, wastewater plants, and also roads. And certainly roads in Michigan are worse than most states or many states because of the funding crisis we've had in roads. But the rest of the infrastructure is true no matter where you go. It's a problem. And it's buried, nobody's recognizing it, and no one's coming up and saying what the issues are. I can't remember the number. It's hundreds of billions of dollars nationwide. But if you ever want to see any of those articles, I'd be happy to share them with you.
Thank you.
But actually, I think we're in excellent shape. As it is compared with most communities, because of the CSO control program, we've taken a bite out of it. But to think that we're done, we're not done. You're always going to have, we're just going to be able to do it at a more controlled pace, and we're going to do it by corridor. We're going to do it coordinated in that fashion. It's not going to be someone else pushing the button about how fast you have to do it. But I think we have to consider it, or it'll come up and bite us.
Anyone else on council?
Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Mueller.
Bob, you said Lansing. You're talking about the sewer system in Lansing?
Yes. And their water mains.
Sewer system in Washington DC too?
Yep.
Yeah, that explains a lot. Thank you.
Yep.
On a serious note though, 18th Avenue between Hancock and Garfield. Looking at the map, trying to look up there, it looks like that's probably red. But
Yep.
Blue Water Transportation, while we were working on Riverside Drive, changed their route from Riverside Drive. Now they go down Garfield, cross 18th, and back up Hancock. And 18th Avenue in that area, you've gotten bright red. It's almost as bad as 21st and 22nd Street. I would suggest maybe we contact them and tell them to go back to their old route or pick one of the streets that have been redone up there before we have a sinkhole there for 2 blocks, because it's horrible.
Thank you for your comments. I'll be happy to talk to them.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Thanks. And we'll open it up now. It's a public hearing, so we'll open it up to the audience. If there's anyone in the audience who wishes to make comments on the city's project plan, come forward and give us your name, please.
My name is Alan Skinner. I've been a longtime resident of the city of Port Huron and very aware of the city for a while before that. Just a thought or a comment. The sewer separation project is a long, tedious, expensive, and ongoing project now as I listen to this amendment and hear the explanation that we'll never be done with the sewer separation, but maybe we will someday. My thought is that I've watched my water bill and the sewer portion of that water bill increase extensively over the years. And I would only ask that the council consider, if they have to raise the sewer portion of the water bill again, and I know sometimes it hasn't been done, that they take a real conscious effort in thinking that that raised revenue will be decked and addressed and married to the projects, the sewer separation projects that are being considered and completed, rather than spreading the revenue someplace else. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to address the council relative to this public hearing?
Not on the sewer separation. That's not what I'm here for. Is this just the sewer
This
separation?
is just right now the public hearing on the project plan that Mr. Clegg just explained.
It's not what I'm interested in.
Okay. We'll have your time coming up just next. Anyone else on the project plan? Then I will declare the public hearing closed, and we do have the need for a motion to adopt the amendment to the project plan.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Lewandowski. Is there a second?
Support?
Councilmember Cole. Is there discussion? We'll take the vote.
Councilmember Harris.
Yes.
Councilmember Lewandowski.
Yes.
Councilmember Moeller.
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz.
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald.
Yes.
Councilmember Cole.
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. We'll move on now. This is the public comment time, and you can come to the podium and give us your name. You have 4 minutes to speak.
We'll take that one.
Okay?
My name is Margaret Enright. I live in Port Huron, and I want to congratulate you on once again selling the Water Street Marina. This time, I hope it sticks. But for the previous owners, I hope they don't get the $300,000 back, because they sure didn't fulfill the contract on doing something with that property. They never took care of it at all. They let it go into terrible disarray. It's been vandalized so many times. All the wiring, anything that was usable, anything that was saleable has been taken and destroyed and sold, including the building that's down there. And they never even so much as took care of the weeds or the yard or the property or anything. It looked like the worst part of Detroit. And I didn't want Port Huron to be compared with that. And I certainly hope the new owners will be a little speedier in what they promise they're going to do. You know, promises are really, really easy to make, but they're hard as hell to keep. And I hope somebody keeps these promises, because I live in that area, and I walk there all the time. And you should see the trash and the dumping area that they've used it for. It's not a very safe area. Ken, you should know that. You walk in the same area. And it is a terrible, terrible, disrespectful place for our city. We've got a beautiful city, and we've got to start taking better care of it. And the people that want things from our city had better start taking better care of it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to address the city council this evening? If they've just come forward and give us your name, and you have 4 minutes.
As you guys all know, I'm from the Hampton Inn, Port Huron, and I'm here today in regards to...
For the record?
Oh, Nason Shamasha. Sorry about that.
No problem.
I have some documents over here that I'd like to hand out.
Thank you.
As you guys all know from, as you all know from the emails that I've sent out, I've been working towards purchasing the Water Street Marina property for quite some time now. My partner and I are here today because we understand that another offer is being considered. As I stated in my emails to all of you, we have brought an additional partner into the deal who has the hotel construction and ownership history the city is looking for. Malik Abdinur, CEO and owner of A&M Hospitality. Our partner has been in the hotel business since 1986, and in 2012 alone, he constructed 3 properties, a 94-room Hampton Inn in Roseville, 92-room Hampton Inn and Suites in Chesterfield, and 66-room Comfort Inn and Suites in Canton. Currently, he has under construction a 114-room Hampton Inn in Southgate, Michigan, a 70-room Holiday Inn Express in Franklin, Michigan. He is also in the process of beginning construction on a 100-room Stay Bridge and a 110-room Holiday Inn, both in Dearborn, as well as an 80-room Hampton Inn in Brighton. Melick has well-established relationships with Holiday Inn, and with his support, we are certain that we will have no difficulty in completing this project in a timely manner. We are willing to give an additional $100,000 of purchase to the property for a total of $400,000, and if given this opportunity, we will begin blueprinting and construction immediately after permits are given to us. We feel that with Melick's involvement and given our history in the city of Port Huron, we should be considered for purchase of this property. We would like to focus on continuous improvement of the city as we have been doing since 2009 when we came into Port Huron. We have established trusting relationships with a number of the community and would like to continue to do so. From what I understand is that if from the beginning we did have Malik Abdenoor as our partner, we would have been given a chance to being able to get the property and move forward. But the reason why we didn't from the beginning is we didn't need help with financing. And we weren't told up until March 14th that this is what's going on after several times of waiting since December 2012. We've approached before then, and also we've been approached that we were given first option to the marina property. Then when information was requested from us, we had given it in a timely manner or sooner. And after that, we had been brushed off. We haven't heard from anyone. And every time we did, they wanted something new and we gave it to them. And then after giving everything, we have been, after giving everything that was needed, we haven't heard from anyone up until March 14th. Actually, towards the middle of February, they told us that there's 3 proposals, which we waited patiently. We didn't say anything, and we also kept several times keeping in contact with this Bruce Brown and Gary Fletcher, asking if is there any other additional information that you guys need. And we weren't told that, we needed a stronger background, which we could have gotten that involved.
Mr. Shamasa, at this particular time, we only normally allow 4 minutes. I don't know how much more you had to continue.
No problem.
And the council will be discussing this whole issue at the time that it comes before us, so.
Can I mention one last thing also?
Sure, go ahead.
We've also had given the city a check for $50,000 if this purchase was acceptable, and the check was cashed. And then the next thing you see is that we have an offer on this marina property. So we were kind of misled thinking that, hey, it's looking good on our end. So that's where we stand at us here today, wondering on what's going on.
Okay.
Which I'll let my partner go ahead and talk.
Hi, my name is Luke Hakim. I'm owner.
What was your name again?
Luke Hakim. Okay, like Nathan mentioned, we want to offer $100,000 more for the property, and we've been dealing with Mr. Bruce I met him I would say over a year ago, and we've been back and forth, and I know the reason we're here because we're qualified, we can do that project, and plus we're looking something to do better. If we can do this deal, probably we can do some kind of playground or something in Port Huron. We tried to grow here. We made the commitment, to ourselves and to the city. We can do a lot of other projects here. And plus, probably we're going to bring a restaurant too. And we are qualifying our partner. He owns over 60 hotels. And like he mentioned, how many hotels built just this year. And we appreciate if you can give me more chance. And plus, there's $100,000 more for the city of Port Huron. I'm pretty sure they can do nothing more, for the property. Instead of $300,000, we willing to offer $400,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to address the city council this evening?
Good evening. Sarah Proud, Executive Director, Blue Water Safe Horizons. I wanted to come tonight and talk a little bit about perhaps the misunderstanding about Safe Horizons' budget and the crisis of homelessness in Port Huron. Safe Horizons is a $1.5 million agency. Within that agency, we run a counseling center, a legal advocacy center, a domestic violence shelter, which is 24 hours, Carolyn's Place, Pathway, which is 16 hours, and a housing resource center. The vast majority of our budget goes to the Housing Resource Center, where we take people from both of our shelters and place them in stable housing and tender the rent. The rent then goes to area landlords, stimulating the economy in the community. We have less than $100,000 to run Pathway. Pathway is a 16-hour shelter. We used to be 24. We have families in that shelter. We have children that we have to send out on the street in the morning. We have seniors. The vast majority of our residents at Pathway are from St. Clair County, and a good percentage, over 50%, are from Port Huron. We have been at capacity at Pathway throughout this incredibly frigid winter, and it is difficult for us to see how, with the sequester cuts, which we are seeing about 5 to 10%, how we can continue to serve this population. We are at a bare bones staffing. We have one person on we've just cut that last double coverage. We used to have 2 folks on in the evenings for safety reasons. So what I am asking, if you cannot find, because I recognize the city as well had significant cuts to the Community Development Block Grant funds at this time of real economic need, at this time of real challenges to the poor, the vulnerable, and the disabled and the elderly in our community, to begin a conversation of how we're going to address homelessness. Because ultimately this is an issue that needs to be addressed. These are not out-of-town residents that are coming to see our services. These are a product of a really difficult economy, and we've had that economic challenge for many years, and that economic challenge is not going to get better in light of the sequester cuts. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to address the City Council this evening?
Again, my name is Alan Skinner, and I just have a comment about the potential sale of the river marina that marina that we're discussing. I'm hopeful that we all know and we all recognize that we are a small city and a poor city, as some of the presentations earlier indicated, the help for the needy and disadvantaged in the city. That we are encouraging a developer to come in that will spend his own money, that we're not looking at utilizing city concessions, city contributions to the development of the river marina. It's good that we're trying to do things and develop and attract people and other facilities into the city, but they have to do it on their own. We cannot be a handout. And I'm thinking of the recent expenditures again on the Sperry's building, which hasn't gone anyplace, hasn't done anything. I don't know the current status of it, but we continue to spend money and subsidize that development, and we have nothing to show for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to address the City Council this evening? I'll declare the public comment period closed, and we'll move on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Archibald. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Cole, take the vote.
Councilmember Lewandowski.
Yes.
Councilmember Moeller.
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz.
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald.
Yes.
Councilmember Cole.
Yes.
Councilmember Harris.
Yes.
Mayor Redd.
Yes. The items on the consent agenda are as follows. We received and filed a notice from the Michigan Liquor Control Commission regarding the application of Baker College of Port Huron to transfer ownership and location of an escrowed Class C and SDM license to 2000 St. Clair Street. Received the copy of the Board of Review's 2013 assessment roll. Reappointed Mike Cansfield and Timothy Kearns to the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority for terms expiring April 14th, 2016. Confirmed and approved single lot special assessments for the cost of removing weeds, unlawful growths, and other blighting factors. And confirmed and approved single lot special assessments for the cost of special trash pickup in the right-of-way, and gave an ordinance at second reading and enactment, which was an ordinance to amend Chapter 20 Emergency emergency management for the purpose of transferring emergency management activities to the St. Clair County Emergency Management Division. And those are the items on the consent agenda, so we will now move forward, and our first item will be from the city manager, number 1.
Is accepting the bid from Michigan Cat in the amount of $62,200 for the purchase of a backhoe for the Public Works Division.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Lewandowski. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Harris. Is there discussion?
Mayor Rupp?
Yes, Councilmember Cole.
I see that this purchase will be made in lieu of a budgeted street sweeper. I'd just like to know, how are we making up for the street sweeper that was budgeted? What are the repercussions of purchasing this instead of that street sweeper?
Mayor Rep and council members, the department has, in the past, had to reduce its street sweeping operations to stay fiscally constrained with our revenues that we have for street sweeping. We have 3 street sweepers. We have 4 street sweepers currently, and what we're beginning to do is cannibalize one of them to keep the other ones running. So, but if that program was ever to pick back up, or funding was found so we could increase the efforts in that area, we believe that we would have to replace street sweeper. But at this time, we feel it's much more important to take care of the backhoe.
Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Lewandowski.
Bob, we're currently renting this backhoe, aren't we?
Yeah, it's, we're renting it for about $2,700 a month, so it's significantly less expensive to buy it.
Any other questions from council for Mr. Clegg?
If we,
Go ahead, Councilmember Ruiz.
we rent this backhoe, you said?
Well,
Presently?
what occurred is the backhoe that we're replacing, the 1997, the one that's 16 years old, was unsafe to use. And we were facing spending some $25,000 to $27,000 on rehabilitating it. It was a better part of valor to rent one for a short period of time that had more capabilities to lift the heavier castings and so on we're finding we have to deal with these days. And that and the safety trench boxes that we need for our employees to keep our employees safe. The previous backhoe didn't have the capability to lift those. We'd have to go out and hire somebody else to do that on a regular basis. So what we tried first is leasing this unit to see if it would function as we wished, and we felt that it could. The challenge was it was very expensive to lease, so we went out to bid to see if we could buy one that met all our specs, and that's why we brought it before you tonight. We bid it both as new and as used, and a new one would have been $117,000, and we thought in this particular case the used one would serve us at $62,000.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you, Bob.
Mayor Rep.
Yes, Councilmember Harris.
Basically, I'm going to have to vote no. Number one, it's like buying a used car over the years that I've been foolishly bought new cars, but I don't think when we're looking at employee safety and things like that, for us to buy a used one is not a step in the right direction.
We certainly wouldn't recommend it if we didn't think it was safe, but I understand your concern. Yep, I understand.
Anybody else have any comments from council?
Mayor Rapp?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem
And I may have
Archibald.
missed this. What is the life expectancy of the used one?
We believe that we can get enough years out of it that it's a lower cost, life cycle cost than buying a new one at this time, when we do out the life cycle costing. The last one lasted us about 15 years before it was not usable. And when we look at the difference in cost and the life cycle cost, it'll be lower cost for us over the life of the unit.
Do you have an approximate estimate of number of
Now,
years?
let's see, this is a 2009. I would say we're going to get about 10 to 12 years out of it.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. We'll take the vote.
Councilmember Mueller.
Hold on, I'm doing the math. Want to vote right, you know?
you want her to come back to you?
Sure.
Okay.
Councilmember Ruiz,
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald,
What if we want to hear his math?
Oh. Well, we can do that if you want.
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald,
Yes.
Councilmember Cole.
Yes.
Councilmember Harris.
No,
Councilmember Lewandowski.
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes, we'll move on to from the city manager, number 2.
Is accepting the quote from JWC Environmental LLC in the amount of $7,888 for repair of a grinder pump at the wastewater treatment plant.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Archibald. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Ruiz, is there any discussion?
Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Moeller.
just one question, Bob. Nobody in Michigan sells this? Or am I in the wrong one?
No, it's Georgia.
Yeah, nobody in Michigan sells this?
No, this thing is pretty unusual.
Well, it's coming from Georgia, that's self-explanatory. but-
Well, there's like one company that makes these.
Thank you.
Mayor, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead,
Bob,
Councilmember.
how many more pumps do we have to replace? It seems like every meeting that we're replacing a pump or something. I know there's a lot to do, but
Here's the good news, we're not replacing this one, we're repairing it.
very.
Yeah. To explain what this thing is, it is a grinder that sits in the flow of the sewage, and it eats up wood, bolts, and other items that would damage the equipment downstream. A nice way to think about this thing, it's a paper shredder on steroids. It looks like a paper shredder, it really does, but it's huge. And what it does, it protects all the equipment downstream. The good news is we have 2 of them. One of them we put out of operation because it used to be used as part of the incinerator process. That allowed us to get one going again. This one's down, and we feel making repairs to this one is more cost-effective than replacing it because the new unit's extremely expensive.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with that. I'm just curious how many more pumps are we going to be replacing?
well,
I mean, it seems like every meeting that we're replacing pumps.
Well,
or repairing them. Or,
It's kind of what we do, we pump water and solids.
Is this a, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Just curious if you could have an estimate of how many more are in jeopardy of.
I wish I could give that to you. If you want to take, well, I think you have taken the
I
tour.
have taken the tour.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of equipment in there, and we have replaced a lot of our major pumps lately. But the plan is between 35 and 40 years old, or at that time, that there's just a lot of little nuances within the plant that still needs replacement.
Is this being paid for out of the bonds that we've already bought?
No, this was budgeted for $13,000 in our cash funding of projects, so it's not a bonded project. The bonded project is the wet weather project that you approved earlier.
Okay.
Go ahead, Councilmember Cole.
That was my question, was this
Oh.
budgeted?
Yes,
That was the answer, thank you.
you're welcome.
Anyone else? Thank you. We'll take the vote.
Councilmember Ruiz,
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald,
Yes.
Councilmember Cole.
Yes.
Councilmember Harris.
yes.
Councilmember Lewandowski.
Yes.
Councilmember Moeller.
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. I wonder if there's no objections from council. Items 3, 4, and 5 all have to do with River Street Marina. I don't know if we want.
Object.
You object? Oh, okay, that's fine. I mean, we could vote on them separately, but I just wanted to, if we could have the conversation all at once anyways.
That's fine.
Okay, that's fine. So she can read them all now, and we'll vote on them separately.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
Number 3 is accepting the bid from Edward J. Painting in the amount of $7,545 for the Southside Marina Dock Painting Project. Number 4 is accepting the proposal from Raymond Excavating Company in the amount of $36,500 to lower 10 docks at the River Street Marina. And number 5 is accepting the bid from Sanctum Contracting in the amount of $12,800 for the River Street Marina Dock Bumper Extension.
Do we have a motion for those items?
So moved.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Archibald. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Harris. I wonder if, before we open it up for discussion, if we could hear an explanation of the different items that are being done and why?
Mayor Rep and council members, we were approached earlier this year by the current operators of the marina and they expressed several concerns that we investigated. One is the condition of the metal components of the docks on the south side of the river. Previously, the marina operator had painted the ones on the riverside side on the north side, and they felt the ones on the south side were in need of painting and had mentioned that they had brought back some excess revenues, and they're kind of hoping we would look at doing that to improve the attractiveness. Regarding the lowering of the docks, there are docks that are located from 7th Street Bridge to the 10th Street Bridge on the north side of the river. Those docks, their setting and their elevation is such, and the way they're built, we can adjust their elevation relatively easily. However, with the low water this year, we are hitting very, very low water datums. In fact, it may well be historically low. So far, I don't think we've hit quite as low as it's been in the past, but it's very close. There is concern, and I think legitimate, that if the bumpers on the docks, there's bumpers that hang below the dock, and it prevents the boat's hull from getting underneath the dock, or the railings from getting underneath the dock. And then if there's wave action, that wave action could cause the top of that boat to hit the bottom of the dock. So extending the bumpers down is being proposed to protect damage and potential liability of the city for damage to boats by extending those bumpers down and preventing those boats from getting underneath the dock and damaging those. So those would be for the docks from the 7th Street Bridge to the 10th Street Bridge on the north side of the river, River Street Marina. For the docks yes, okay. Now the docks that are located, the first docks, I made a mistake. The first docks are from the Marina building where they fill the tanks to the 10th Street Bridge. That's the first set of docks. The next set of docks is from that same location to the 7th Street Bridge. And those docks are fixed docks and are designed differently. They can't be easily adjusted. They have a T-support in the bottom. The operator of the marina has expressed concern that those docks with low water, for some of the people that come in, are going to be so high, they're going to be unusable. So they're asking, and there's like 50 some of these docks in that area. And they approached us and said, what's the feasibility of lowering these? And we said, well, we'll go out and get prices. And this would be for 10 of those 50 some docks to lower them to a more reasonable elevation for use in the upcoming season. Again, that's the three projects. If I can explain any more, I'd be happy to.
Go ahead.
If it'll make it easier, we pick up about $65,000 a year in profits from the marina operation, and that's about what this is. So I think we can assume that these are improvements that are needed to the marina that can be paid for by the marina operation itself.
Okay, thank you for adding that. I'll open it up for discussion. Councilmember Lewandowski.
A question for Bob, I guess. If they can live with 40 out of the 50 docks being done, why do they want the other 10 or not being done?
Well, they're hopeful that what we'll do is we'll look at next year's revenues, and if there's funds there, once we've got some experience with this, see how much money is available and see if we can continue to go down the line. But they recognize we can't afford to do them all at once.
Okay. Is this going to be an adjustable dock when it's done, or
No,
is it something in case water levels go back up? Or
No, it would be much more expensive to make them an adjustable dock. We might only get a couple done for this amount of money if we made them adjustable.
Okay. So do those 50 docks, are they used consistently throughout the year besides boat night, I guess?
I can only speak to my observation. I don't operate the system, so I don't know that for sure. But I think many of these are transient docks, and you'll see boats in some of these that are seasonal, but many of these are transients, and I apologize, but I don't know the numbers on how much they get used on any given week.
They're full all summer.
Well, I know, talking to my former employer who has a boat, he said that a lot of those transient ones, he didn't have a neighbor all year, so that's why I was curious, is he had a boat dock that was right next to the transient ones. He said he might have had a neighbor 1 or 2 times this year, and that's why I was curious about that, but.
Yeah,
But I said it might
I don't
be
have
a
the numbers.
specific dock too, I don't know, but.
The 10 that they're doing, is that transient or permanent ones, or don't you know? Which ones are choosing to do?
I couldn't tell you for sure. We just said that we would begin with 10 and do 10. And we wanted to learn more from this too, because this is our first experience of making this kind of adjustment. And so we went out for a competitive bid. Our goal was to come in under 40 grand, and we were happy to see it was under 40,000. So we have a better idea now what kind of pricing we're going to get for doing this work.
Anyone else on council have questions for Mr. Clegg? Councilmember Harris?
I guess it's more of a statement than anything. You know, we've had people that have had their dock space reserved and used for probably 10, 15 years and stuff, and it would be nice that if they would receive some of the benefit from some of these. I don't know if that's possible or whatsoever, but, you know, these people have put their money into the city when they probably could have gone someplace else, and they should at least benefit by some of it.
Yeah, and again, I don't operate the system, but my observation is many of the boats that are there, and again, it's a casual observation, someone who uses the river, is that many times it's the same boat. It's the same boat from the Marina House to the 10th Street Bridge, and we're taking care of all of those. And then I think from the Marina House towards 7th Street Bridge, there's a little bit mix of both transient and seasonal. I don't know exactly what the breakdown is.
You had another question?
One little question, is Malcolm Marine coming in and cleaning out the rest of the docks?
Yes. Currently, we have them on hold because of the emergency dredging legislation that's going through. We're being told that if we authorize the work before the legislation is approved, we may not be able to benefit from the grants. So we're walking a tightrope right now because our permit says we have to have every slip, all the dredging completed by April 15th, and they haven't passed the legislation yet. So we're playing legislative roulette, trying to wait and see when they're going to approve the legislation so that we know exactly what the terms are for the grants.
Anyone else with yes, Councilmember Cole?
Can you just clarify how many docks are they adding the bumper extensions to?
I don't know if I have the number right with me, please, but I'll take a look.
It wasn't like the remaining 40, that's a different
No, it's
section of docks?
This is the section of docks from the Marina House, the Marina facility, where they fuel, down to the 10th Street Bridge. That's where they're lowering bumpers. And the 40 or 50 docks that are from the Marina House to the 7th Street Bridge is the ones, we're lowering 10 of those.
Okay. So
I'm sorry.
do you know approximately how many dock bumper extension, like how many docks is that going to service?
No, I don't right off the top of my head. I'm going to take a look and see if I have anything in here and answer that question for you. I'm sorry. There's a lot to go through before I get to where I want to get. I don't know the exact number of docks.
Is it more than 10? Is it a significant
Oh,
number?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's more than 10. yeah.
Okay.
But I apologize, I don't have the exact number.
That's okay, thank you.
Councilmember Mueller?
Mayor, Bob, how long are these bids good for?
Usually we have a bid hold of about 60 days. I don't know
Mayor
if that
Rep.
was included in this bid, but.
Mayor Rep,
that's
I would
our
make a
rule.
motion to postpone this and have our partners come in and explain it to us exactly and have more answers to our questions so that we can act responsibly on this resolution.
You're asking to postpone all three of them?
Yes.
Do you know what additional information would be required, so I'd have the right people here?
Well, let's see if it gets postponed or not first. I guess I would ask till when, the next meeting? Is that
Yeah,
what you're
next
talking
meeting.
about?
Just so that they can come in and answer the questions that have been asked that haven't been answered.
Do you have a second to that motion? Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Pardon me?
Second.
Okay, I didn't know who did it, so Councilmember Harris seconded that. Is there any discussion on the motion to postpone? I guess I would ask if you must have a certain window in which to do this work.
We are not intending to disturb the bottom lands of the water, so it would be our goal to, certainly we would like to have it done before the boaters want to move in.
That's why I was wondering
Yeah.
how much time does it take to do the work?
Well, the work is very different in character. Each project's a little more, is different in character. Certainly, the lowering of the docks is the most complex work to be done. And the marina's open May 1.
Right.
So certainly, we would like to have, we would prefer that the boaters not be disturbed by work going on for the opening. I have not met with the contractors because the contract has not been awarded, so I don't have their schedule. So it's a little difficult for me to answer exactly how long they are planning to, how long it's going to take them to get materials and get in and get the work done.
I was just wondering if it's postponed till April the 8th. That just gives about 3 weeks, give or take a day or so.
Yeah, it'd be tight especially for the lowering of the dock, because they have to buy steel. They're going to have to cut steel, buy steel. They've got to get dredges in place. I mean, they got to put something together to get that done.
Is there any other discussion then on the postponement? We'll take the vote.
Oh,
wait, go ahead, I'm
Is there
sorry.
anybody here that can speak to those? I don't suppose there are any representatives from any of these companies here tonight, or anybody else that could give a professional opinion on what
No,
postponement
until,
would do?
like I said, until I have an opportunity to meet with the contractors. Certainly ordering steel these days isn't an automatic. Other than that, I mean, the bumpers aren't that complex, but painting.
Painting's not either.
But
so-
lowering the docks that's a little more complex.
Okay, well, we have a motion on the floor to postpone action on these items until the April 8th meeting, so we'll take the vote.
Councilmember Archibald?
No.
Councilmember Cole?
No.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Lewandowski?
Yes.
Councilmember Mueller?
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz?
No.
Mayor Rapp?
No.
Motion fails.
We have the items before us still, so we want to take a separate vote on each one, unless there's further discussion.
I have no objection. You can do them all the same if I was the only one objecting, because I'm voting no now anyway, so. On all of them, so I have no objection if I was the only objection.
Does anyone else have an objection to voting all at once? Okay. Well, then we will take it all as one group, and if the clerk would please read the roll for that.
Councilmember Cole?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Lewandowski?
No.
Councilmember Mueller?
No.
Councilmember Ruiz?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Mayor Rapp?
Yes. We'll move on to from the city manager number 6.
Is accepting the bid from Sunseeker in the amount of $51,130 for the resurfacing of the Court Street Big Pool and Sanborn's Wading Pool.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Cole, is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Ruiz, is there discussion? I guess I'd just like to ask, was this an anticipated budgeted item? And
Mayor and City Council, we resurfaced these in 2001. Usually the lifespan of these is 5 to 8 years. Obviously with the Michigan winters, it takes a toll on an outdoor pool. We went after 2 grants for this. We need it pretty bad. We have over 100 lacerations from the bottoms of these pools. We've been trying to get grants for them, and most granting agencies are feeling like this is maintenance. So it was anticipated, but we keep trying to patch and get through the next year. We've got a lot of water under the stair areas. Actually, each facility has 2 pools. So we have 4 total that need to be done, but we can at least get the 2 worst ones done for this year and hopefully patch the other 2 to get through, so.
You said you could not get a grant, is that where it is?
No, we tried for 2 different ones, 2 different years in a row.
Right.
And they feel this is maintenance on the city's part, so. I mean, those particular 2 ones, but we've been trying to get funding, but we are going to use millage money to do this.
The Parks millage?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anyone else on council that has any questions for Nancy? Thank you. Any other discussion? We'll take the vote.
Councilmember Harris.
Yes.
Councilmember Lewandowski.
Yes.
Councilmember Moeller.
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz.
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald.
Yes.
Councilmember Cole.
Yes.
Mayor Rupp.
Yes. We'll move on to resolutions. Number 1.
Is approving the agreement with the Detroit Edison Company for municipal street lighting for the recreation trail along the previous CN Railroad right-of-way between 10th and Military Streets.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Lewandowski. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Archibald. Is there any discussion? We'll take the vote.
Councilmember Lewandowski.
Yes.
Councilmember Moeller.
No.
Councilmember Ruiz.
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald.
Yes.
Councilmember Cole.
Yes.
Councilmember Harris.
Yes.
Mayor Rupp.
Yes. We'll move on to item number 2.
Is approving the agreement with Laurel Ross Sterling Entertainment Incorporated to provide event production services during the 2013 Port Huron Rockin' on the River music event.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Archibald. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Ruiz. Is there discussion? Maybe Nancy'd like to give us their lineup for the summer. I know that's a very popular.
I'm going to turn it over to Tony George.
Okay.
She's the one in our department that does such a fine job with this event, so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Rep and council members. We are really pleased that we do have the lineup for this summer, and we'll be starting on August 1st with Pirates of the Caribbean. It's a Jimmy Buffett tribute-style band. August 8th will be Dennis Tefano. He's the original voice of the Buckinghams, which is a group from the 50s. On August 15th, Mega 80s will be returning. On August 23rd, we'll have Your Generation with 50 Amp Fuse. And we'll finish it up with Alan as Tim, and he's a Tim McGraw tribute band. So we're excited for our lineup this season.
Sounds good. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, one question. The guy that played in the band in the 50s, how old is he?
Well, I don't know, might have been the 60s.
It's the 60s.
60s, okay. Sorry,
Just
60s.
curious. Any liability or something?
He was pretty young when he played.
That was good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any discussion on this? We will take the vote.
Councilmember Moeller.
Yes.
Councilmember Ruiz.
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald.
Yes.
Councilmember Cole.
Yes.
Councilmember Harris.
Yes.
Councilmember Lewandowski.
Yes.
Mayor Rupp.
Yes. We'll move on to item 3.
Is authorizing the sale of the former Water Street Marina property to Amera Lodge Group for $300,000.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Archibald. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Cole. Discussion.
Mayor Rep,
Yes, Councilmember Lewandowski.
just have a question for Bruce. Would you consider all 3 applicants were qualified applicants?
Yes.
I guess my question then be, and I heard they brought it up, and I thought about it over the weekend as I was thinking about it, why didn't we put it out to the highest bidder at this point? I know we had to sell for $300,000 minimum, but why didn't we put it out to the highest bidder? If all 3 were qualified?
All of their proposals were 300,000.
Okay, but is that all we asked for? Did we ask for $300,000?
Oh, we just asked for proposals.
Okay. I'm just curious as to why we didn't put it out to highest bidder. You know, normally we go lowest bidder, but here's our chance to go
Well,
highest
all
bidder
the
for once.
proposals were for basically a hotel, and all were for 300,000. And we vetted the 3 applicants and over a period of a couple of months, and picked who we thought was the most qualified in terms of the objectives of the city council.
Okay.
And that was basically a financeable project that would be built quickly and by a reputable developer.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else on council? Yes.
I'd just kind of like to comment, I know probably the rest of the council members maybe feel the same way I do, but I've been inundated with articles and emails and things like that in the last week or so. And when you consider every one of them, and I read every one of them, I just thought there was many things that I've learned in the last week and a half that I should have learned a long time ago. And I don't know if this process is going backwards or whether we're going forwards. I think we have 2 people here that are more than qualified to run a marina or build a marina. And Lord God, we knows, Mrs. Enright stated that how bad it is, and I'm probably out there as much as she is, and it's a travesty that anything as bad as what it is being labeled city property, because it's that bad. And now we've down to 2 people that basically could save the city of Port Huron a lot of money, and I'm torn. I don't know who side I'm going to be on, because it isn't a side issue, it's who's going to do the best job, and we got to get something done out there.
Is there any other discussion?
Mayor Rapp,
Yes, Councilmember Moeller.
I have a question that came up during the public audience. Mr. Shamasha made the statement that, I believe it was Mr. Shamasha, made the statement that, and I know that they were involved in this for much longer than the other 2 companies. So when was the bid announced and when was the bid closing? Because these emails or the package they presented us, they had theirs in, and we responded back saying we were waiting for 2 others to get theirs in. So was there a set time for the bids, or was it just whenever we felt like hearing from somebody?
This all started long before Hotel Development Services ended their contract, or we ended their contract. The Shamashas came to see me probably 4 or 5 months before the decision was made to end the Hotel Development Services contract. And basically, they wanted to have us negate the contract and give the property to them for a development. I indicated we didn't own the property. I couldn't enter into a discussion or a negotiation on the property until we had it back. And that happened in January, I believe. They came in with a proposal, and we heard of other people that were interested in proposing. They indicated tonight that they didn't know about the other proposals until March. And here's a letter that I sent to them in January and said, as you know, we're expecting 2 additional proposals by the end of this week. So the fact that there's been 3 proposals has been out there since January. We have been going through a vetting process. We've given each of the developers ample opportunity to provide documentation. Some of them we had to go back and ask for additional documentation. We didn't understand their financing plan. We didn't understand their schedule. One developer wanted to wait until January of 2014 to close on the property, and it went on and on and on. And finally, we ended up with the 3 proposals. Gary and I spent a fair amount of time going through them, calling their references, talking to people that are in the business, and we had very, very strong support for Amerilodge, for their track record, for their ability to be on the site quicker. And from my standpoint, that was the ball game. To me, what you were looking for is somebody that had a track record that has been developing hotels during this last number of months or years when nobody is able to get financing for hotels. This developer seemed to be getting financing for hotels. And so we made the decision that the Amerilodge proposal was a superior one for where the city council, we felt, wanted to go with this. We didn't want another situation where we were going to be setting for 2 or 3 years trying to figure out how to get them to the finish line. They convinced me, at least, and our discussions with Holiday Inn, they were very highly thought of, and Holiday Inn knew all 3 of the developers and supported each of their developments. So, you know, you make a recommendation based on the best information that you've got. I think this is the best recommendation, and I feel very comfortable with it. And I think you will see a project develop there that is what we have all been trying to see happen in the last 3 years, and it just hasn't happened. So it's a recommendation. It's your decision. And Gary, I don't know if you want to make any comments. We did a thorough job of looking at all of them and felt that this was a superior proposal.
And I'm not saying it wasn't. I'm asking what were the dates that the bid process was open? I understand Mr. Clegg, when he puts a bid out, you have from day A to day B to turn the bid in. It seems to me that this was just sort of haphazard, and that's my question. Was there a specific bid period, or did we get Mr. Masha's bid and then we just go out and recruit other people to bid against them? Or what happened? Was there a specific bid date? And if there wasn't, then I think it's inappropriate to take any bids tonight. But that's what I'm asking. That's what I want clarification. Was there a specific bid date?
Mr. Fletcher's going to...
As Mr. Clegg would put out, or anyone else in the city that puts out a bid?
First of all, this wasn't a bid. What we were looking for, Mr. Brown asked me to work with him on this, having worked with recruiting the hotel developer for the Thomas Edison Inn and seeing that through to getting it financed. We knew what a horribly difficult environment it was to get hotels financed. Frankly, with the strengths that project had at the Edison Inn, the struggles they had, it was stunning to me. So it wasn't about a deadlock date. That wasn't the issue. The issue was to get the right candidate. The Shamsha group came forward first, although we knew there were 2 others in the wings, very interested, doing their homework, their due diligence, putting their proposal together. The things that we focused on were, number 1, track record and experience in building hotels and getting the work done promptly and getting them opened. Number 2 was the ability to finance new construction of hotels during the horrible economic conditions we've had, when many banks have, if you will, redlined hotels. They will not finance them. There's one local bank that we would like to think would support that kind of thing, and they will not touch a hotel. The third thing was support of Holiday Inn in their franchising organization. And what we first looked at was the Samsha proposal. We gave them every opportunity to demonstrate the ability to build hotels and do so quickly, the ability to finance the construction of a new hotel, and have a pretty good degree of assurance that they could pull it off. And third, the ability to get it done timely, because I knew the council, we knew, did not want to sit around for another 2 years flailing away while somebody tries to put it together. And there was no deadline, because if the right proposal if we got a bad proposal, it just wasn't the right one, and we didn't think it was going to work, and we'd embarrass ourselves bringing it before you, we just wouldn't have brought it before you. We would have waited till the right deal came along for the city and the city council. And ultimately, that deal was the Amerilodge Group. And as Mr. Brown indicated, I did a lot of the due diligence on both proposals. What I found out is, and we found out, is number 1, as Mr. Brown indicated, they have been able to get these projects financed during the worst of times. They built multiple projects, you heard it, during the worst years. They're still building them now, even though hotels are still difficult to finance. and they have financing sources available to them today such that they're able to build projects right now. Secondly, they got a resounding endorsement from Holiday Inn. Basically said they're one of their best franchisees. They say they do what they say they're going to do, and essentially they said they have to go through the process, but they'll have no difficulty getting our approval as a preferred franchisee. And then the third thing we found out is they actually, as they pointed out, and I didn't know they set the record for both Marriott and Holiday Inn in getting them built, but in doing the due diligence and making the calls I made, what I discovered is they built hotels very promptly when they set about to do a project. The other thing that frankly, and I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to anyways, is the plan they presented was initially the Holiday Inn Express Hotel with a restaurant, and then if the market supported it, a second hotel on the same site. And they showed us the plans for that. That's not to say they're committed to a second hotel. But the site, and the other thing they came with is a site plan, architectural drawings, renderings, an actual sample of a product that we would get that they just are finishing or just finished recently. So honestly, when you looked at the strength of both projects, I don't know either of these groups, and for me, it had nothing to do with who they were or when their proposal came in, but what was best for the city, and it wasn't close. It wasn't even remotely close. So I support Mr. Brown's recommendation 100%.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion?
Mayor?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem
Just a
Marshall.
comment. I think it's very exciting that we're sitting here and we have a potential of 3 offers on some property that we've spent 3 years trying to pray someone could do something with. And I'm racking my brain wondering, do we have more property? And maybe they could both build a hotel and they'd both be happy. So I think it's very unfortunate that we do have to turn one down. I mean, we've looked and looked and looked and hoped that we'd have things happening in our community, and I thank both of them for coming forward. It's unfortunate they both can't do it. However, I think at this late date, once a decision or a recommendation has been made, it's a little difficult to go back to start changing what was proposed. So I will be supporting the recommendation.
Any other discussion?
Mayor Rep,
Yes, Councilmember Lewandowski.
we're still assured of a 90-day start on the project once it's been approved? 90 days once it's been approved is when we'll see start? Okay.
I believe there's a clause in there for 6 months to, yeah.
6 months.
For the site work,
Yeah.
6 months for the footings for the hotel.
Yeah. Any other discussion?
I guess just one last comment is the fact that how I vote in this doesn't show whether I have confidence in more than one than the other or no confidence in the other. I think both of them are very competent, and I hope that neither party is disappointed in what I do to vote on this, and I just think it's a plus for Port Huron. So I wish we had, like somebody else said down here, I wish we owned all the way to the bridge, because I think we could sell it all, so thank you.
Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Cole.
I would like to ask perhaps someone from the AmeriLodge group what their intentions are to do with the actual marina. Is there intent to develop that? I know that's a bit of an eyesore from the river as well. I don't see that necessarily in the plans. Just wonder if you have anything to share on that.
Yeah, our intention is to develop it. We're actually in discussion with MDEQ right now regarding the dredging and the possibility of getting that taken care of. So our intention is to move forward with reestablishing the marina.
Okay, great, thank you.
It might not be at the 300 slips, but it would definitely be a bit larger, at least 100 or so.
So the idea would be that someone could have a slip there, stay in the hotel?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Could I just ask something? If you were to get approved tonight due to the comments that were made earlier about the condition of the property, would this be something that you would take into consideration of cleaning it up in the meantime before you start so that it's a little bit better looking?
It would be immediate. Yeah, we were just discussing that, how fast we can get in here and take care of it.
Because, yeah, that's always important, so.
One of the other things is I know Intercontinental Representative Nicole von Hiltmeyer is here as well, so just the support from the standpoint of Holiday Inn, the backing and support, so we have that. And a couple of the other things that we added, I mean, our organization, you have to look at the long-term success of your facilities, and our quality scores are in the top quartile for all of our all of our buildings that we have currently with Holiday Inn, the Holiday Inn Express. So quality is very critical. Second is employee engagement. Our employees have to be happy. Your guests are going to be happy, and everything else will flow from it. We're at the top 10% of employee satisfaction within all of Intercontinental Worldwide. And third, I actually serve on Holiday Inn Express Worldwide Committee, so taking care of brand standards and other items that are reflective of the ownership team of all of the Holiday Inn Expresses worldwide. So that's another thing that we've been very actively involved in on a regular basis.
Thank you.
Mayor Rapp, I have a question for you. Just out of curiosity, for a matter of uniqueness, is there any other hotel that has a marina along in Michigan on the Great Lakes anywhere that you're aware of?
Spring Lake, yeah.
So Spring Lake and Great Haven, we're actually working on a courtyard project in Bay City.
Okay, I was just curious.
Thank you very much for answering our further questions. Is there any other discussion from council?
Mayor Rapp,
Yes, Councilmember Moore.
I want to make it very clear that I'm not opposed to any of the three that applied. However, I'm going to be voting no simply because nothing against Mr. Brown, Mr. Fletcher, but I don't think it was, I would have handled it different, and therefore I'm voting no for the process, so.
Any other comments? I guess I'd just like to say that I do appreciate the Shamashos coming forward with their offer. However, offering additional funds after you were told that, pardon me? About that particular thing?
Our partners built now 10 hotel, you know what I mean? So you are qualified with Holiday Inn, with Marriott, with any franchise. If you look at,
I understand that, and I really didn't want to get on a back and forth because this is not the time.
Just tell you are qualified financial-wise and franchise-wise. It didn't matter if we put a hotel here, if it's going to be Holiday Inn, or it's going to be Marriott, or it's going to be Hilton Product. To you, you want hotel. And we will do more room, 90 more room. It's going to be more taxes for the city, and we offer more $100,000 more money for the city. I think the city, every city should appreciate it, offer more money to look at it.
Well,
so you cannot look at it because, we've been back and forth a year. If they would have told me, I'm going to cost me $6 million to build a hotel, I could afford to spend $1,000 picture to bring it to here in Framview, but you never got that chance. I appreciate it. If you guys give me that chance, and we prove it to you with the project and more project in City Port Huron. And thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments.
Can I just make a quick statement?
Very quick, because we don't normally do this, but go ahead.
In regards to bids, I do have an email that's stating that I need to get everything in by January 14th of 2013. I do have emails. Me and Bruce have been talking since December 3rd, and between 3rd and 4th. I've been going back and forth with them. They said, submit everything you have. I asked them, I said, listen, I said, if there's anything that we need, or if there's anything that we need to change, or if we need to involve the other partner, our partner's been mentioned several times. No one ever got back to us. As if you read those emails that I have there, my attorney emailed Gary Fletcher saying that I'll represent them if we proceed with this. And Gary said, no problem. Thank you for communicating with us. We will get back to you if you have any other questions. If we would have known this and known that you guys needed a bigger resume, this is why we're coming here today last minute, because yes, they did state in January that we do have other proposals. We were under the impression that, hey, why was our check cashed? Why were we guys proceeding with us since December? When I walked into Bruce Brown's office, he said, well, I know you've been after me about this project. You've got the first we're giving you first option, but you have to have everything in by January 14th. So we had a lot of things that have been said have not been true between Bruce and Gary.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, now we've opened this up, so I think Mr. Fletcher has something to say.
Frankly, I really take offense to that, because we haven't told them anything that wasn't true. We told them that we are waiting to see what else came in, and I'm going to tell you they were very aggressive in pursuing this. But it's not up to a city manager and a lawyer to tell hotel developers how to present their case, how to make their pitch, to present what they want to develop, how they want to finance it, who their partners are, what their track record is, what Holiday Inn Express thinks of them. We sat back and waited to see what they would present. I mean, to sell us that they were the correct pick. And you saw it here tonight.
Thank you. I think we'll close the discussion and take the vote.
Councilmember Ruiz.
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald.
Yes.
Councilmember Cole.
Yes.
Councilmember Harris.
No.
Councilmember Lewandowski.
Yes.
Councilmember Moeller.
No.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. We will move on to resolution number 4.
Is approving the applications from Landmark Port Huron LLC for Neighborhood Enterprise Zone, known as NEZ, rehabilitation certificates for 206, 208, 216, 218, and 220 Huron Avenue.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Lewandowski, is there a second? Councilmember Harris? Discussion.
Just one question.
Yes, Councilmember
It's been a
Harris.
while since we've had these. What exactly is a rehabilitation certificate?
I think we can have Ms. Harmer explain that.
Mayor and council members, the Neighborhood Enterprise Zone with the rehabilitation certificate, basically what it does is it takes the property downtown, the land and the commercial portion on the first floor, and allows that to continue to appreciate in its tax value. It then takes the second and in some cases third floor of the building that was in the past either open storage or unused vacant space, and that would be then converted into residential units, and they do have to be used as residential. And it puts a freeze on the taxable value of that second floor for a period of 6 years at its current value. And then the seventh, eighth, and ninth year, it opens that taxable value up by a third each year, so it ramps back up to 100% of whatever that new appraised value would be for the additions that were made in order to convert them into residential units. A number of years ago, we started the program and we were allowed through the state to have a NEZ zone downtown, and it was to encourage residential lofts, and it's been very successful.
So it's basically like if I rented a home for my father and I ended up buying it 10 years later, then I'm going to pay the value that's gained during those periods that was held low by the Headley Amendment. I mean, it's not like I'm getting a freebie. It's basically it's deferring my payment.
It's deferring, right, at the current value, and then at the end of that 9 years, whatever the market value at the time.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Moeller.
so they're getting a tax break for 6 years. They're not paying any taxes on the improved property.
On the approved second floor, that's correct.
And then they're getting a 2/3 break in the 7th year.
Correct.
Okay.
That's just on the improvements,
It's
correct?
just on the second floor frontage.
So it's on the improvements.
Right.
I go back to what Mr. Skinner said earlier tonight. We're giving away government tax property taxes that this person should be paying, that I would have to pay if I did an improvement on my house. And Mr. Jones hasn't done anything with the Sperry's building to impress me, and now we're going to give him more tax breaks.
Any other discussion?
Mayor Rapp?
Yes. Mayor
Kim,
Pro
did
Tem
we
Marshall.
offer the same thing to the other loft owners downtown?
Absolutely. Anyone that's within the district has the availability, I guess, to ask for the same certificate. That's part of being in the district.
Can you estimate how many of them are under this particular plan?
Right now, I believe we have 6.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
So they didn't all take advantage of that?
No, all of those that have made the improvements to their second floor since the time that the NES was in place have asked for the NES certificate, yes, sir.
Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Lewandowski.
Kim, some of them probably wouldn't have qualified at some point either because it was already residential upstairs too, is my understanding?
That would be correct. We do have some downtown. And when I apologize, when I said 6, I mean, we had 6 applications. They had multiple units in there, right?
Any other discussion? Thank you.
You're welcome.
We'll take the vote.
Councilmember Archibald. Yes. Councilmember Cole.
Yes.
Councilmember Harris.
No. Excuse me, no.
Councilmember Lewandowski.
Yes.
Councilmember Moeller.
No.
Councilmember Ruiz.
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. That concludes the agenda. I do have an announcement that's on there, though. Just a reminder that all artificial flowers, wreaths, toys, structures, or decorations of wood or equally perishable materials have to be removed from graves located in Lakeside Cemetery by March 31st, which is Sunday. So it's a notice for everyone. Is there anything else to bring before the council? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned.